Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 6.
Facility is required to report data, but they're not necessarily doing it in a consistent manner.
Some nursing homes in the Fargo-Moorhead area are pushing back against recently released federal data showing how many people died in a facility because of COVID-19. One long-term care facility is blaming the state of Minnesota for its high death count. Valley News Team's Joshua Pagaro explains.
Federal data says 18 people living at Eventide and Fargo have died due to COVID-19. But is that correct? Eventide says that number is off. It's actually 6. Yet at its Moorhead location, 15 people died. And in a statement, Eventide blames the Minnesota Department of Health for a lag in testing. These numbers were released as part of a push by the Trump administration to make long-term care facilities more transparent. But Leading Age Minnesota says the opposite occurred.
We feel this is an urgent matter because inaccurate data can create a lot of unnecessary fear and panic for residents and family members during this time of a global pandemic.
Facilities are required to submit their COVID-19 numbers, including deaths, to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
What we have come to understand is that while some providers have entered the data accurately, what CMS then reported out was not reflective of what was entered in.
In Minnesota, out of more than 1,200 deaths, 968 were of people living in long-term care facilities, whereas in North Dakota, 53 out of 72 deaths were at these locations.
In what the CDC reports and what individual state may be reporting, with the states being far more accurate because states were collecting the data, or at least in North Dakota, from day one.
It's no secret that long-term care facilities in Cass County were hit hard by COVID-19, like Rosewood on Broadway right behind me. But the number of active cases at this facility remains relatively low. Villa Maria is reporting 15 deaths, while Rosewood is at 7, according to S&P Health System. Bethany on 42nd had 2 deaths, while Bethany on University had 4. In Fargo, Joshua Pagaro, Valley News Live.
The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services is reporting aware of inaccuracies with its data, and it plans to fix it. Nearly 32,000 people have died in the U.S. at long-term care facilities. The stormy weather has moved on, but we're still wrestling with gloomy and much cooler temps. Hutch should be able to get some sleep tonight, but let's check in to make sure. Hutch, what's planned?
I'll tell you what, we have some spotty showers, and from time to time here in eastern North Dakota and eastern South Dakota, a rumble of thunder. But by and large, I'm not expecting any severe weather tonight. These showers you see here in the southeast portion of North Dakota are moving to the north and east at about 40 miles per hour. So they'll be making their way towards us. The last 3 days have been very wet. Here was Saturday night's rain, then Sunday night storms, and then Monday night storms, totaling upwards of 4 to 8 inches in places of the Northern Valley as we went through the weekend. We saw 3 to 6 inch estimates here by Doppler radar across much of northwest Minnesota, 2 to 4 inches in the Southern Valley, and a few places have reported in the rain gauge even more than this. So a soggy weather weekend into the early week. Temperatures will be cool, and we'll have a shower chance tonight, particularly as we get past the 9 o'clock hour in Fargo and into and through the overnight hours. Grand Forks, yes, you'll have a chance of some later showers of rain tonight as well. I think the early evening will be the driest. I'll have details on how long this rainy weather does stick around, and we'll talk about a return to some, well, temperatures that are more spring-like here, Mike, in just a few moments.
Look forward to that. Thanks. For the second time in 5 days, former Fargo Police Deputy Chief Todd Osmundson was back in front of the cameras. The first time he announced his resignation. Today, he apologized. Osmundson was quoted in a local article Monday night accusing Fargo police of having a built-in bias against people of color. Now he says at the time of the interview he was venting and says he is the one with racial biases, not other officers.
The headline should have been, former DC Todd Osmundson has built-in bias against people of color. I threw our whole team under the bus. That was wrong, and I apologize to them.
Osmundson also went on to debunk claims made Monday afternoon by Black Lives Matter organizers who say Fargo police conducted illegal black ops surveillance during the May 30th protest and riot. Osmundson says the allegations make him sick and are completely false. Investigators are still working to find the cause of a garage fire in Grand Forks late this morning. It happened around 11:30 on 42nd Avenue South. Those inside and their pets were able to get out safely. However, the two vehicles in the garage were destroyed. The garage sustained significant fire damage, and the interior of the home was impacted by smoke as well. West Fargo police are looking into what caused an SUV to crash into a house this afternoon. It happened near 9th Avenue East and 1st Street South. Investigators say there were no injuries, but the driver needed to be helped out because the garage door was on top of the vehicle. Authorities have released details on a fatal ATV crash. Deputies in Hubbard County in Minnesota say it happened Sunday afternoon off of County Road 44 near the Schoolcraft Township. Authorities found 61-year-old Timmy White from LaPorte, Minnesota, dead after being ejected from his ATV. Investigators say that White was not wearing a helmet. Fargo police are looking for this individual and is asking you to help out. It's a 16-year-old girl. Gabriella Samaniego was reported as a missing or runaway juvenile on June 1st. She is 5 feet 9 inches tall, approximately 255 pounds, with brown eyes and brown hair. If you have any information on her whereabouts, call dispatch at 701-451-7660. A 38-year-old Detroit Lakes man will spend 11 years in prison for distributing meth. Eric Ryan Bergstrom was sentenced for possession with intent to distribute meth. He admitted to bringing large amounts of meth to the White Earth Reservation. And in August of last year, law enforcement installed a tracking device on Bergstrom's vehicle. He was arrested at a home in Wadena attempting to dismantle the tracking device. He was also found to have meth hidden in the vehicle. North Dakota is reporting another 22 positive COVID-19 tests. Nearly 2,000 tests were completed. There are 379 active cases in the state. That's down 93 from yesterday. No new deaths have been reported for the third straight day. The death toll linked to the virus remains at 72. In Minnesota, there are 307 newly reported positive cases of COVID-19 and 22 more deaths. The death toll in the state now stands at 1,217. The number of active cases at 2,815. That's a decrease of 555 from yesterday. County auditors across North Dakota will be tallying ballots tonight in the statewide primary election. All 53 counties have opted for a mail-in only election due to coronavirus concerns. And according to the Secretary of State's website, more than 155,000 ballots have already been cast. That's more than 94% of the ballots that were mailed to households across the state. Stick with Valley News Live for the latest results as they come in. George Floyd has been laid to rest in Houston, Texas, 15 days after he died, unarmed and pinned down by Minneapolis police. One of those officers with his knee pushing onto his neck. The service was private for family and friends and invited guests, but was streamed to hundreds of thousands watching across the country and around the world. Reporter Jay Gray has the story.
Tonight, George Floyd is finally home.
It's time for us to celebrate his life. We may weep, we may mourn, we'll be comforted, and we will find hope.
Hope shared by a nation. Images of tens of thousands marching across the country and around the world. Evidence of his impact and legacy.
We honor him today because when he took his last breath, the rest of us will now be able to breathe. God is with us.
But for Floyd's family, breaths are difficult to gather right now.
All I think about is when he was yelling for mama.
Their hearts are heavy. Their loss overwhelming.
I just want to say to him, I love you, and I thank God for giving me my own personal Superman.
A superhero to so many here, whose message and mission doesn't end with his passing.
Out of his death has come a movement, a worldwide movement.
We lift our voices.
But on this day, the movement pauses, if only for a few hours,
For your goodness,
to honor his memory.
your mercy.
Floyd's final resting place is a family plot next to his mom. In Minnesota, people took part in an 8-minute, 486-second period of silence to mark the start of his funeral in Texas. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz issued the proclamation this morning. There is still a large memorial for Floyd at the site where he was killed. A St. Paul, Minnesota man has been charged in connection to setting fires at the Minneapolis Police Department's 3rd Precinct 2 weeks ago. 23-year-old Brandon Michael Wolf has been charged with 1 count of aiding and abetting arson. The complaint says at the time officers arrested Wolf, he was wearing stolen items from the precinct, and a search of his apartment recovered more stolen items. Investigators say that Wolf admitted to being inside the precinct the night of the arson, taking property from the building, and pushing a wooden barrel into the fire, which helped keep the fire burning. Up next on Valley News Live at 6, we heard from city leaders, including politicians, yesterday. Tonight, residents sound off about calls for dismantling the Minneapolis Police Department.
Cool, breezy, gray skies, and yes, even showers moving into the valley as we head into the late night hours. I'll have hour-by-hour details on this activity and what to expect the rest of our work week coming up next.